Good morning, everybody, and welcome to August's free Yardstick webinar. Feels a bit like October at the moment, though, after the weather has broken over the past couple of days. But I hope it's not too bad where you are. And as I say, welcome to today's webinar, the 8 different types of videos that you should be using and how to promote them. Before we get to that, in time-honoured tradition, I'm going to hand over to Dan, who will do a bit of housekeeping for today.
Thank you. So, as always, I'm Dan. I'm the head of branding and design here at Yardstick. And yeah, I managed to survive the heat wave without melting. So I'm thrilled to be with you on this webinar today. As always, I'll be keeping us on track and on time and fielding all of your questions and comments. So to do that, we've got 2 options, the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen or the chat function. And webinar regulars might know that Zoom has been changing a few of their default settings lately. So there's a chance that the chat box might be locked. So if anybody here in the crowd could just test it out by putting something through on the chat, that would be much appreciated so we know that it's working. There we go. Thank you, Neil. Perfect. So that's your second option if you want to comment or question anything. Yeah, thanks, Neil. Thanks, Suze, Imran, Naomi, Fiona. Brilliant. So for any new attendees among us, we operate a very safe space here in this little Zoom room. There are no silly questions, so don't be scared to shout up if something doesn't make sense. And the same also applies if your experience differs from what Phil is saying. We like to hear opposing views, so you're more than welcome to challenge us. We're always learning, and we don't have all of the answers because nobody does. So I'll be reading out your questions as we go. And at the end, I'm sure Phil will be happy to stick around for any final ones that we can sweep up. And as usual, a follow-up email and recording of this session will be sent out, thanks to our very own Abby Robinson, who will be taking notes of any resources or assets that Phil mentions. But before we get into it, let me pass you over to Phil, because we've got something extremely exciting planned for next Tuesday evening, haven't we, Phil?
We do indeed. We normally like to give people a bit more notice when it comes to webinars, but on this occasion we've not been able to. So next Tuesday evening, a bit different this. So next Tuesday evening, the 23rd of August at 7 p.m, we've got Brian Portnoy and Neil Bage on. Brian and Neil are just massive experts. They've got brains the size of a planet, Brian and Neil. And they are huge experts on behavioural finance. And one of the things that we're nervous about right now. Clearly, we're heading into tough times. Interest rates are rising. Inflation is nudging over 10% right now. Recession around the corner if we're not already in. Stock markets are volatile, albeit have maybe been a bit more benign over the past few weeks. But your clients, your prospects, will be worried right now, or at least some of them will be worried right now. And it's really important that you communicate to them in the right way. Some people need communication in a certain type of way, others need it in a different way. But it's really, really important that advisors and planners step up right now and communicate with their clients as effectively as they possibly can. And we saw back in March 2020, when stock markets were clearly suffering a difficult time because of the onset of the COVID pandemic, we saw a few advisors stick their tin hat on, stick their fingers in their ears and slide under a table and wait for it all to pass. Now, fortunately, it passed really quickly at that point, but now not so much. So for me, advisors and planners have got 2 choices. They either step up or they slide under the table. And the session we've got, the Q&A session we've got with Brian and Neil next Tuesday will be just a brilliant session to help you do that. So I urge you to go and have a look at that and book on. Everyone who books will get a copy of the recording, and it's Q&A as well. So we've got no PowerPoint from Neil or Brian or myself. It's Q&A, so you will walk away with any answers to your questions, and it's a great opportunity to question Neil and Brian and get insights from them, which will help you communicate with clients more effectively. So Dan's going to put that in the chat. Abby's already done it for me, so thank you, Abby. And yeah, go ahead, sign up for that. And it will be a great session next Tuesday night at 7 p.m. So without further ado, we're going to move on to what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to start with a little apology. My voice is still suffering with the after effects of COVID. So if I need to break off and cough, Dan and Abby can vamp and fill in for me. So what are we going to talk about today? The 8 types of videos you could produce for your business. We're going to talk about how to run the client video project. We believe that client videos are the gold standard of videos, so we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about then 8 ways to promote your video content. Because remember, an effective content strategy needs 2 things. It needs effective production and effective effective promotion. And there's not a lot of point in producing video content if you're not going to produce it. We're then going to talk about where we add videos to our websites, and then 3 ways to produce video content. So without further ado, we're going to go straight into the list of the 8 types of video content you could be producing. And it's natural that we start here with client story videos. So let's do a question to the audience, if that's okay. Client story videos. Yes or no, have you recorded videos of your clients, case studies, of them talking about their work with you, how they work with you? Just a yes or a no. Do you have videos of your clients talking about how they work with you, case studies, etc.? So if you guys could put a little note in there, that would be great. What have we got, Dan?
Right, so we've probably got a slight majority saying no, but quite a few are saying yes.
And for those who have said no, what are the barriers to you producing client videos? What's stopping you doing it? Is it a belief that actually you don't need them? Or are there other barriers? What are the barriers stopping you producing videos? Dan, back to you.
One of the immediate barriers, so Kerry mentioned no compliance causes us so many problems. And also Lewis mentioned they feel awkward asking.
Okay, we'll deal with both of those if we can. I'd be interested, Kerry, to learn more about compliance and what they might be struggling with, and maybe who you use for compliance. You might want to put that in a private message to us. But it's really interesting that the majority of people, Dan, don't seem to have client videos. And for us, there are 3 types, and we've talked about this many times before on various webinars, but there are 3 types of client-driven social proof. In no particular order, we have client surveys, we have online ratings and reviews as the second, and of course we've got client videos. And for me, if you're thinking of having more videos to use in your marketing, and we think about all the other 8, the other 7 that we're going to talk about today, client videos are where you should start, because they're incredibly powerful. It's so much more powerful to show people the benefits of working with you than you simply telling them. And I've spoken to a few advisors and planners recently who have said, a bit nervous, markets are volatile, a bit nervous about what clients might say on videos. But you know what? Now is the time when, as we said on the introduction with Brian and Neil, now is the time when you will be providing your clients with the confidence, the peace of mind, the reassurance that this will pass and everything will be okay. And if you're doing that, if you're fulfilling that role, you know what? They're going to be more than happy to help you on videos. They really are. So if you're fulfilling that role, if you're giving them the confidence, the reassurance, the peace of mind, you should have nothing to worry about when it comes to asking clients to appear on videos. Yeah. And the other flip side is if you only ask when markets are bullish and markets have risen, then actually you're pegging your value to investment returns rather than everything else that you do. So just believe me when I say now is the perfect time. And we've never had to pull a client video project because the advisor, the planner, couldn't get enough clients to take part. So if not now, when are you going to do it? And for me, client videos, the storytelling power of them is massive. And we want to make, if anyone's read Building a Brand Story by Donald Miller, which is an incredibly powerful book, talks about 3 things, three people, 3 things. So first is the hero, and that's your client. We need to make your clients the heroes of your videos and indeed of your website. We then need to talk about the villain. Now, the villain is not a traditional comic book villain, but your villain is the problems that your clients have when they first come to you, or the aspirations they want to achieve, the challenges that they've got. So, am I going to be okay? Do I have enough? When can I retire? That's the villain. And then you are their guide. You are their guide that is helping them solve the villainous problem that they come to you with. And really important that we tell, the hero tells their story, but they explain who the villain was, what the villain was, and how you as the guide help them deal with that. And you've got two options when it comes to client videos. We can record them remotely, or we can record them face-to-face. Now, traditionally, pre-COVID, almost all our shoots were face-to-face, but obviously COVID put a stop to that for quite a significant period of time. So we've started now to record, probably the balance has changed completely. Maybe 85%, 90% of videos we record are now recorded remotely, which is a combination of Zoom and the client's mobile phone, the client's smartphone. Because of course, we've all got now effectively a studio in our pocket. You can record a video and you can edit a video, most of us, with the smartphone in our pocket. So you've got really two choices. And when you're deciding whether to go for remote or face-to-face, you need to think through the pros and cons of each. Now, face-to-face, in terms of advantages, you will end up with studio quality footage and studio quality sound, if the team you're working with are good. And in terms of the location, you could do it at your office. I think the office is really powerful. You could do it if the office doesn't lend itself. You could do it in a sort of neutral location, hotel suite, that sort of thing. But the advantage of doing it in the office is that you can record B-roll footage. Now, B-roll footage is incidental footage, the camera panning around the office, you walking up to the client, shaking hands, that sort of stuff. So in terms of advantages of face-to-face, professional shoot, professional studio quality footage and sound, you can get that B-roll footage. So the end result just looks more polished. In terms of downsides of face-to-face shoot, it is more expensive. So typically speaking, a face-to-face shoot is probably 2.5 times more expensive than producing videos remotely. Yeah, 2.5 times more expensive. And the other thing that we found is that clients tend to be less open. So I've done a lot of video shoots where I'm sat interviewing clients of financial planners. And the clients walk in, the room is, if you've been on a studio or a set, you've got a lot of lights, you've got cameras, you've got wires everywhere. It's quite an intimidating environment to walk into if your client has not done it before. And that sometimes means that clients can take a bit more warming up. In terms of advantages and disadvantages for remote, advantages significantly more cost effective. So that might give you an entry point, a lower cost entry point. That means you can run a video project where you couldn't do it before if the only option was face-to-face. It's easier to organise as well. If you're doing a face-to-face shoot, as we'll talk about in a minute, you need to pick a date and then try and get your clients to come in. That's not necessarily the easiest thing to organise. If you're doing it remotely, and we do maybe 20 client videos a month remotely, it's just easier to book them in the diary because it's just more convenient for them. We need about an hour of their time and we can work to their schedule. It doesn't have to be on a specific day. And then finally, remotely, clients just tend to be a bit more open. They're sat in their lounge, they're sat in their living room, and they're just a bit more open with what they say about you. So those are the two options and some of the advantages and disadvantages between remote and face-to-face. So once you've decided that actually you want to go ahead with this, for me, you've got to start with the end in mind. So how many final videos do you want? And generally speaking, we suggest individual videos. Whereas if I'm a financial planner and Abby's a client and Dan's a client, we'd have Abby talking about how I work with Abby and the advantages of she gets from financial planning, and the same would be true of Dan. And typically we do packages of 3 or 6 videos, but that's flexible. And typically, if you've got, say, 3 target audiences, then we'd recommend 2 videos for each. So let's say you're a fairly traditional financial planner you work with clients in the lead up to retirement, at retirement, and past retirement. So you might do 2 videos for each of those 3. And then of course you can turn individual videos into show reels. So if I'm recording a video with Dan and another one with Abby, we'd have a video with Dan and a video with Abby. But let's say, for example, my last question was to the client, would you recommend the name of the financial planning practice? And Dan says, oh yes, I'd recommend, and this is the reason why. And Abby says the same, and all the other clients. Then you can create a show reel, and that show reel is topical. So it's 6 clients answering the same question, and those show reels work really well. You've then got to decide whether you're doing the shoot face-to-face or remote. We've talked about some of the advantages and disadvantages there. Then, of course, if you're doing a face-to-face shoot, you need to agree the date or dates and the location. So typically speaking, when we're running these shoots, we prefer to work in the financial planner's office if we can, because as I say, you get more B-roll footage, and you can take other opportunities, which we'll talk about shortly. And you would start setting up maybe 8 o'clock, so hour and a half to set up the shots and make sure all the kit's in the right place. And then generally speaking, you'd have a client coming in on the hour, every hour, until you're done. By the time you've had a chat with the client, settled them down, interviewed them, done the B-roll footage, you've spent about an hour. You then need to produce a short list of potential clients. So think about your target audience. Because these videos need to appeal to your target audience. So if I come onto your website and I am, 60, thinking about whether I can afford to retire or not, I don't want to see people like me. I want to see people like me 2 or 3 years ago, that you have helped. And that gives me the confidence that actually you are the expert that I need, and there's the proof, because it's shown me that you've been able to help someone who was like me, and how they are now. So think about your target audience and who you want to be appealing to, and also don't necessarily go to the clients that you think are most likely to say yes, because they tend they tend to be older clients. They tend to be more long-standing clients. The relationship can potentially be less formal, and therefore the client can be slightly less formal on the videos and not take it quite so seriously. And also, we found that those clients tend to focus more on investment returns, because the proposition from the planning firm may have changed over time. So start thinking about big life events. Financial planning really comes into its own around the time that clients go through big life events. So retirement, job change, house move, what else have you got? Bereavement, illness, receiving an inheritance, making gifts, that sort of stuff. So start thinking about big life events, because the client can talk about what life was like beforehand, how you helped, and what life is like now. And they make really, really powerful videos. So don't just go to the people that you think are going to say yes. Think about the ones who have gone through big life events and you've helped them. Then you approach the clients. There really is no way of approaching clients and in any other way than saying, will you do me a favor? Yeah? Just because there's not a lot in it for them, but there's quite a lot in it for you. Having said that, a lot of clients will feel very, very happy to do this, because it's their way of repaying you in non-financial ways for the work you've done for them. I remember doing a video shoot just before Christmas in Birmingham, and it was actually at Henwood Court, and we've got some examples of those videos later. I was just chatting to the client, how far have you come? Well, I've come from Wales. So that's kind of a 3-hour round trip. So I thanked him for making the effort, and he said, it's my way of paying Nick back. Working with Nick, it's no underestimation to say it's changed my life, but it's my way of saying thank you to Nick. So sometimes we just have to reframe this a bit. You then need to agree the questions. What are the questions you're going to ask? And you need to make a decision also about whether you send the questions to the clients beforehand. Gut feel, a lot of advisors want to send them to the clients beforehand. And I understand why, but it sometimes can be counterproductive. Because what you find is that sometimes clients will spend quite a bit of time answering them, writing the questions, the answers down, because they want to do well for you. And then two things happen. One, they're not quite as authentic, they're not quite as spontaneous when they're answering, and you can tell almost that they're reading it. And second, I'm seeing this quite a bit where the clients have had the questions and prepared beforehand. The clients get really worried that they're not word perfect, and they get really quite anxious, and it kind of gets worse every time they try and do it. So do think really carefully. There are a lot of disadvantages of sending the questions to clients beforehand. Then you film your video, so you run your shoot day or you film them remotely and then edit, and then of course we've got to promote them. So there's a lot that involved in running a client video project. We can help, and we'll talk about more of that in a bit. But for me, that's the first type of video you should be producing. The other 7 have all got a place, but if we've only got a certain amount of time and a certain amount of budget, this is where we should start. Because as I say, showing beats telling. Dan, why I'll have a bit of water. Any questions that have come in?
No questions as such, but a bit of context from Kerry, who mentioned that compliance often got in the way of their video efforts. So Kerry says, we have clients willing to do videos, but our compliance wants it scripted. How can you script a client and their story? Surely then that would not be their own words. We're in mortgages and we have to add specific wording. Plus, it takes up to 10 days for them to even review our blogs, social media, and newsletters. So quite a few hurdles there.
Okay, so I think the scripting thing is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, why would you script what a client's going to say for all the reasons that I've just said around giving the clients the questions beforehand? And they're never going to stick to it. So what's the point in scripting it? I can see why compliance want to sign off what the client says. But in my experience, if you have somebody running the project who understands financial services, understands compliance and what you can and can't say, interviewing the client, if the client says something that actually won't get past compliance, then the person interviewing should be able to say, well, can we just do that again? Could we record that again? We can't say this. And that means then compliance can comply a video with what the client says, because it's the end result that they're complying. It's what the client says, not the script. For me, that should get around that. And you can also cut things out in the edit. Not sure I can do much around the length of time it takes compliance to look at these things. But in my experience, we've not had, I can't think of an occasion where we've had pushback from compliance to say, can you take this out of a video? Can you take that out of a video? Kerry, we might want to pick that up offline, but I think we can potentially help there. So, second type of video, we spent quite a bit of time talking about client videos, but they are incredibly important, and I think the time we spent talking about them reflects that. The next type of video that advisors and planners often naturally gravitate to are brochure videos. And oftentimes they'll say, I want to do a video, and they'll want to do a brochure video before the client videos, and for me that's the wrong way around. But a brochure video should explain what you do, who you do it for, and why people use you to solve the problems that they've got, those problems, those challenges, those aspirations, the triggers that they come to you with. So what you do, who you do it for, and how you've helped them solve their triggers. And you need to do that really quite quickly, within 60, 90 seconds. Much longer than that, and people are going to lose interest. A sales rep sent me a video about some new tech that we maybe put on websites, and it's 18 minutes long. I'm just not going to watch it. I haven't got time. Yeah. Just give me the essence of it really quickly. And if you're going to do this, you need to agree who's going to present. Now, for me, I probably wouldn't just have the MD in front of the camera. You might be a MD of a business and you might be brilliant in front of a camera, but I've seen some MDs who really struggle. And just because you're the managing director of a business doesn't mean you can present on videos. So what I would be doing here, I probably would script this, or at least have the talking points. And then for each of the talking points, each of the sections, those 3 sections above, what we do, who we do it for, and why people use us, I would get 2 or 3 people in the business recording each of the sections, and then you can take the best bits. 2 key advantages of that. The first is, it isn't just the MD, we're showing the other people in the business, assuming of course the business has got other people, but we're showing other people in the business. But the other thing we're doing, of course, is providing a backup. Yeah. So if a piece of footage where the MD or somebody's explaining what you do and it's not particularly strong, their delivery is not great, you've got other people who have done it as well, and you've got other footage. So it acts as a bit of an insurance policy. So again, agree the presenters, write the script. And the key thing for there to remember is the script is providing a track to run on. It doesn't have to be delivered in a word perfect way. And then think about the location. I would always have the preference for recording in an office for brochure videos rather than at a remote location or via Zoom, because you're going to get B-roll footage of people working away in the background, that sort of stuff. You can see the way this shot is set up on the stock photo that we've used on the slide. And then think about the format. Have we got slides coming in and people answering questions? Just think about the format of the video, and that's as much to do with the edit as anything else. So number 2, brochure videos. Dan, anything come in?
No, nothing.
So number 3, recruitment videos. Now, of course, this only applies if you are looking to recruit and add people to your team right now. But looking down the list of delegates here on this webinar today, I know there's people in there who have got slots in their business that they need to fill. And right now, employers need to stand out. As I understand it, for some firms, recruitment at the moment of advisors, planners, power planners, admin staff is really quite difficult. It's really quite challenging to find the right people. And if it's a challenging environment, if we've got a supply-demand issue, then you need to sell yourself to potential candidates. You really do need to sell the role and your business to potential candidates. And one of the ways of standing out, we've written a lot of blogs recently, I've written some, Dan has and Abby has, about how candidates can stand out. As employers, we've also got to stand out as well. And one of the ways of doing that is to record videos. So for me, who would appear? You might do a short video. What's the best thing about working for the Yardstick Agency? And you get Abby answering for 10 seconds, you get Dan answering for 10 seconds, you get Jose, Rhiannon, Harry, Ellie, all people who work at Yardstick, and giving their answer for 10 seconds. So a really quick cut video that just explains, in that case, or answers one question, in that case, what's the best thing about working at the Yardstick Agency? And you could get line managers, you could get managing director, etc. But at the end of the day, back to showing versus telling, it's far better and far more powerful to get staff members on the videos. And then we could also do a series of stock videos. So the MD or the line managers could do, what are the key skills you need to work here? What are the characteristics of a good, in this case, Yardstick employee? And in terms of stock videos, you could also do a video for every role as well. So you could do a video for financial planner, power planner, administrator, any other roles in the business, and pop those up along with your advert when you start advertising for a role. And remember, you can do this on your smartphone, or you could get people into the office to do it. But it starts to create, for me, that connection with potential employees far sooner than reading a dry job spec or a dry advert. Really important that you start creating that connection and standing out. And I can think of only 1 or 2 firms that do this, so a good way of standing out. Educational content. So again, this is a bit of a go-to for firms who want to put video on their website. And for prospects and professional connections, especially prospects, people who haven't yet become clients, educational content demonstrates your knowledge and positions you as a go-to expert and also adds value. So I can absolutely see the benefit in doing it. For existing clients, it can also explain complex problems more efficiently. rather than you having to explain it many different times. And we'll talk about Loom videos in a bit. Dan's eyes will light up now, there you go, when we talk about Loom videos. And I think you've got two options here when it comes to educational content. One is to use off-the-shelf content from providers such as Money Alive. Big fan of Money Alive as both as a business and their product. And the key benefit of buying off the shelf, there's loads of other key benefits from Money Alive, but the key benefit of buying off the shelf, it should be kept up to date. So when we click over into a new tax year, your video should be updated. If new legislation comes into effect, again, the video should be updated. It's one of the key benefits of using off-the-shelf content. You don't need to update it yourself. Clearly, if you're using off-the-shelf content, it's not you presenting it. So that's one of the maybe downsides, and therefore you might want to think about producing your own video. But if you do that, you've got to think about, well, how do we keep it updated? And of course, that you can get around that to a degree with careful scripting. But educational content, as I say, two ways to do it: off the shelf, produce your own, and there are some significant advantages to doing it. Number five, social media. So if you're using social media, I think Abby would confirm that videos are a fantastic way of just engaging in a different way. Obviously, you've got written posts, but social media, it's good to mix things up, and video is a great way of doing that. And for me, there are again three types of content, broadly speaking. Educational, again, positioning as your go-to expert, adding value. Show your work style posts. Now, I was looking around the office for this book, but I think Abby's taken it home today. But Show Your Work by Austin Kleon is just a fantastic book. It's a short book to read, it's very visual, but it just gives you insights into the type of stuff that works on social media where you're showing your work. And what we essentially mean by that is if you've been and worked with one client earlier on this week and solved a specific set of problems for them, then other people in their situation will be interested. And again, it's massively powerful to show what you do on a day-to-day basis. So show your work style videos. You've walked out of a client's office, sat in the car, record a little video. Yeah, no names, no details. You're not breaking any confidentialities. But just sit and record a little video, put it up on LinkedIn or your favorite social media channel. Then other things, what's going on in your business? Quick updates, new starters, new joiners, people leaving, births, marriages, just good things that are going on in your business. I think Abby would agree when I'm saying keep them short. We've seen, clearly you've got to get your message across, but what, Abby, 30 to 60 seconds, something along those lines?
Yeah, no more than that, I'd say.
Say again, sorry, Abby?
Yeah, no more than that, I'd say. I think the analytics suggest 15 seconds is best, which obviously is no time at all, really. 15
seconds, I've got no chance. And if you can, add subtitles. Adding subtitles slows the process down a little bit. Adding subtitles, again, really important, because a lot of people will watch videos without the sound on. So if you can, add subtitles as well. Animation. So this sits fairly and squarely in Dan's team, Dan's branding team. And I think it's fair to say that animation is different to traditional video, clearly. It is quite significantly more expensive. So to create bespoke animations is quite significantly more expensive for minute by minute of footage. So if you create a minute's worth of animation footage and a minute's worth of maybe brochure video footage, the animation is quite significantly more expensive. But it is a great way of differentiating yourself and showing concepts. And for me, it's useful for explaining evergreen topics. You wouldn't want to be going in and having to edit and change an animation on a regular basis. It's useful for key messaging. So we've done some examples here at Grey Parrot. Sarah, who works with Dan, very talented animator, has recently done 3 animations for Grey Parrot Financial Planning to illustrate 3 key messages in that business around fixed fees, around evidence-based investing, and around financial planning. And those are maybe minute 15 seconds long. with a voiceover recorded by the client, actually, in this case, because it just thought the authenticity worked really well. And go and have a look at those on the homepage of the Grey Parrot website. And also animating client survey results. We talked about the 3 types of social proof you should have in your business, client survey results being one of them. And we've got to show off the survey results, and infographics work nicely to do that, but so do animations, because you could use the animation on the website, as we've done for Berrien Oak and Ardent, and we've got links in here. And Abby, in the follow-up, if we could put these links in, that'll be great, so people can click them easily. But of course, your animation, and once you've built the minute or minute 15 seconds, you can then chunk that down for social media purposes. There's all sorts of things you can do with those animations. So animation, really useful, more expensive, but is a point of difference. Dan, I think we've got a question coming.
Yeah, a few things. So on the point of animation, so Sarah, who produces the animation our end, wrote a really interesting team blog a few weeks back where it wasn't written text. She animated it to prove it. So I'll just pop a link in the chat there, and Avi can put that into the follow-up email as well. Definitely worth a watch. And Phil very kindly offered his voiceover acting abilities for that one.
Mate, I'm no voiceover artist. I hated doing that.
Oh, I don't believe that. You shined. Right, so a few things. So Neil asks, what's the name of the company again with the videos on their website? So those will be on the follow-up email, so you can track those down. So we've got some with animation, some with brochure videos, some with client videos as well. So they'll be listed out and easy to find. And then a question from Rob. So have seen a few videos which have the auto-generated subtitles, and often they don't pick up the correct words used. And to me, it just looks poor. Some people may not realize they are auto-generated and could look like you've just taken no care in the production. What are your thoughts?
Abby, do you want to pick that up? I mean, for me, I wouldn't use auto-generated. I'd be putting them in myself, but what do you think?
No, I completely agree. If you're talking about YouTube, you can delete the auto-generated captions and upload your own, which is good. I would never recommend using the auto-generated one. And Phil, you sent me that example, didn't you? That was auto-generated, and half of it was either wrong, or I mean, sometimes it can be almost offensive, the words they put in. So I'd absolutely recommend. I'll put a few links in the follow-up to the subtitle services that we've used, or we do continue to use, Otter being the primary one.
Oh, that answers the question, Rob. Right, so number 7, topical videos. Now, as we've said before a few times, you have a studio in your pocket. Yeah. You can go and buy a ring light, a stand. You've probably already got a phone. You've got a little studio there. And that means that you can react really quickly to events, things that are happening. I saw a great example of this a while ago, and I think it was either this summer or last summer. And there was flights being cancelled left, right, and centre, so it probably could have been this summer, to be fair. And there was somebody, there was a large announcement of flights that had been cancelled in one day. I forget who the carrier was. And almost immediately, money saving expert, the Martin Lewis business, there was somebody from their department up talking about how to claim on insurance and the things you need to do, really practical stuff. And it was clearly recorded on a smartphone. There was a little pull-up banner behind her, and it was brilliant. There was no fluff, there was no guff. It was straight into adding value and really helping people who were affected. And the really good thing about it, it was out so quickly, within an hour or two after the carrier had announced the cancellations. And there is a lot going on right now. As we've talked about, we've got stock market volatility. You don't just have to record videos when markets drop, you can record them when markets go up as well. So stock market volatility, interest rate announcements, inflation figures, people predicting where things are going to go. Every Saturday morning in the personal finance press, in the personal finance sections of the broadsheets, every Saturday and Sunday, there are articles about personal finance. There are so many opportunities for you to be recording videos. Picture, newspaper, comment, little video to comment about it. And I think this is a really effective way of communicating very quickly with your target audience. And the contemporaneous nature of this just makes it really, really effective. And it's dead straightforward. Record it, edit it, again on your phone, or just put the whole thing up, and then promote it really quickly. And I guarantee you, if you record these, your messaging adds value, and you promote it effectively, it will land really, really well. One thing you do need to do is just make sure you've got your setup in place. So make sure you know the angle that the camera should be at, where your ring light is. So just have maybe a dedicated corner of your office, your study, wherever you work, that you just move to when you want to record one of these videos. Or again, record it when you're out and about. They again work really, really well. I see a lot of advisors, Ian Richards does this really well. I don't know if Ian's on the call today, but I've seen some of his videos. They work really well when he's out and about. Chris Dames used to do a lot of these things as well. So it's topical, it will land well. And then finally, on the 8 videos, Loom videos. So Loom it's effectively a little bit of software that records your screen, records your camera, and records your audio. But they are incredibly useful. We've written a blog about this in the past, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here. And Abby, if we can put that blog in the follow-up notes, that would be great. But Loom videos, they create an immediate connection because people are expecting, when they open an email, they're expecting to read a long lot of text, but actually got a link, click that, it's something different, so it immediately connects and immediately grabs their attention. It's often quicker to produce, it's obviously often quicker to record a Loom video than write a long email, and it's often quicker to consume it as well. And it's very useful for showing concepts. So Dan will use it in his team to show concepts where you normally would have to write out a series of instructions. You can actually show through the screen recording, and as we've said before, showing always beats telling. And you can use Loom videos on social media. You can use them to replace emails. You can use them in your marketing to prospective clients. There's all sorts of things you can do with Loom videos. Dan, you use them a lot for explainer videos, don't you?
Yeah, and I'm quickly gaining a reputation for having a crazed look in my eye whenever Loom's mentioned. But I'm often showing clients the same thing. So how to do something with an asset we may have produced, or sometimes quite technical things where it's almost a tutorial in a way, just a 2-minute, here's how to find this, click that, do this. And when you've done one, you've then got that to add to your library of similar videos, which means that in terms of a time-saving tool, it's really good because it doesn't require you to create new videos for certain situations. And also, as Phil mentions, for times where you would be writing a really long email, I'll record a Loom video, and often it's the first one that people have ever seen. It's still a tool that isn't widely known. So you've still got that novelty factor where people feel quite giddy when they receive a Loom. Or at least I assume people feel quite giddy when they receive my Looms. I could be wrong. But yeah, I'm a big fan.
Always get great feedback when people receive a Loom video, even if it's just on the format, because they've never seen it before. It stands out incredibly well. Right, so we've talked about 8 types of video to produce. In terms of prioritization, client stories for me, really, really important. Recruitment, if recruitment is something that's important to you right now, again, that's a really useful way of standing out. I love the fact that you can do record videos really quickly to react to events, and Dan won't be happy if I don't mention Loom videos. So for me, those 4 are key. But of course, we've got to get the balance between content production and content promotion right. This isn't the field of dreams. We can't build it and expect people to come. We've actually got to promote content. So that means getting the balance right. And as people that I follow on Twitter talk about, you produce once and promote over and over and over and over again. And don't worry about people worrying about people might have seen it too many times. They won't. Things move so quickly these days. there is a good chance they'll have missed it the first, second, third, or even fourth time you've tried to promote this stuff. So where do we promote our video content? Well, obviously website, pretty obviously website, and we'll come back to that in a second. Organically on social media. You obviously, Abby and I talk about this a lot. You need to hang out on social media where your target audience hangs out. That isn't necessarily where you like to hang out, but you've got to go to your target audience rather than expect them to come to you. And once you've done that, once you've found which platforms that they hang out on, then videos is just an incredibly useful way of engaging with people. So when you produce your videos, promote them on the social channels of your choice. You can also use them in paid adverts as well. So there's no reason why you can't use, assuming you have permission from your clients. And I think it's, for me, I would expressly ask them for permission to put it on the website and also using social media ads, because some people might say yes to the website, but no to social media ads, and I can understand why. But you can also use your videos on paid for social media ads. I think that works really, really well as well. Standalone email campaigns. You might use educational videos let's say you're working with clients and you are a mortgage broker and you've introduced a financial planning arm to the business. Then you might start using educational content to educate clients about the benefits of financial planning, certain topic areas, etc., as you try to look to move them from just being mortgage clients to mortgage and financial advice or financial planning clients. When you've got a box set of new client videos, you might do a standalone email campaign over a period of time. Here's Mr. and Mrs. Smith, this is how we help them. Here's Mr. and Mrs. Jones, this is how we help them. So again, really useful there. Emails, just your day-to-day emails, put something in your footer. I think that can work really well. And of course, job adverts. We talked about the issues with recruitment at the moment. And if you can embed them in your job adverts, that's something that's really useful as well. I'm not entirely sure about the functionality of LinkedIn and Indeed at the moment as to whether, and other job platforms, whether you can embed videos, but you certainly can embed them on the job advert on your website page. Really easy to do that in WordPress or Squarespace or Wix or whatever your website is built in. And you could always probably put a link into a LinkedIn ad or an Indeed ad. But using those videos in your job adverts, I think are really, really important. Your proposals. So I've been talking to a client about this earlier on in the week. And if you've ever received a proposal off the Yardstick agency, we use a system called Better Proposals. There's lots of these things around, but the Better Proposals, we've used it for years. It's very good at what it does. And we use it for proposals, for contracts, because it's got electronic signatures, that sort of stuff. So you could embed videos into your proposals to new clients. You could use something like Better Proposals for your client agreements or your terms of business letters or your fee agreements. But let's say you were using it for a proposal to clients. So you write your proposal, what you're going to do, how much you're going to charge them, the benefits of working with you. That's all telling them. Let's have some showing them. Yeah, and embed client videos into there. Yeah, embed the client videos into your proposal and send it via Better Proposals. And as clients read the proposal, they'll get some videos to watch of people who have been through the process with you, come out the other side, and your clients are telling prospective clients about how it's benefited them. Another idea there, back to emails, number 5. If you are confirming a meeting with a prospect, so dear Mr. and Mrs. Smith, look forward to meeting you on the 26th of August at 3 p.m. Here's our address, you park here, here's the postcode for your sat-nav, just that sort of logistical email. Why not finish it off with a video? So I understand, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, that you're thinking about retirement and you want to know whether you can afford to retire or not. And you've got that information from the initial call or the initial inquiry. So, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, just to provide a bit of reassurance that you're in the right place, here's a video of Mr. and Mrs. Jones. They were in exactly the same position as you 3 years ago. We've worked with them over the past 3 years. They've been able to retire. They now have the confidence, reassurance, etc., to live a really active retirement. Here's the proof. Here's the video that shows how we've benefited them. You're in the right place. Put your arm around you. We're going to be your guide. Just really, really powerful. And then your office as well. If you are sat in clients wait, they're sat in a meeting room, have the video going around in the background. Just leave them a minute before you turn up to let the video roll through, and the prospect to watch the video while they're there. Just think about how you can use those videos in your office. So there are 8 ways to promote the videos. In terms of website, Dan, I've seen something come in. Is that a question?
Just a message from Fiona asking if we can add any info regarding better proposals that we've mentioned and the costs involved and the starting point for people.
Yeah, absolutely. We can put a link to better proposals in the follow-up notes. The costs are relatively low. They've got different tiers of membership. I think one starts at about £15 a month, one's at 30. We don't pay a lot. It's one of those systems where the value you get is significantly higher than the cost that you pay. So to finish then, adding videos to your website. So the first thing to remind everybody, if you've been onto our webinars before, is that testimonial pages are largely pointless. Very few people look at them. Between 1% and 2% of all excuse me, all visitors onto your website look at testimonial pages. And that means that we need to take a different view. We need to scatter social proof around your website so people see it while they're looking at the things that they want to look at. Think about your Facebook feed for a second. As you scroll down your Facebook feed, you're seeing content from people that you're connected to, your friends, family, and what they're doing. But every 3 or 4 posts, Facebook inserts an advert. Some of those adverts you'll scroll past, some you'll pause and look at, some you'll pause, look at, and click. And Facebook makes a few quid from that. And that's what we need to do here. Facebook doesn't have a page of adverts and a clean timeline. They put the adverts in the timeline. And that's exactly what we need to do with social proof. Your online ratings and reviews, your videos, your client survey results need to be distributed around your website. And when it comes to videos, I would suggest to stop your website slowing down. You add the video to YouTube or Vimeo channel and embed into your website. From a client video perspective, I would have, despite what I said about testimonial pages, I would have a dedicated section, and that dedicated section should have all the videos on one page, generally with a hero statement next to it, so the best thing that the client said in the video, and then a link. That link goes through to a sub-page or a child page, which has each individual video on it. So Abby's video is on one page, Dan's video is on another page, excuse me, and you have a transcript on there for each as well. So on each of those child pages, you've got the video snippet, you've got a hero statement. So for example, we did a video for Expert Wealth, and the hero statement was something along the lines of, they asked me questions no other financial advisor has ever asked me. How good is that? That's great. And then a transcript, so someone can read it as well. And then what else would I do with them? I would, as I say, scatter those videos around the website. So I'd put them on the home page, I put them on the Who We Work With page or the problems we solve. Remember, your website needs to empathize with the reasons people are there. I put them on the Why Choose Us page, and I also think about, well, maybe put them on the contact page as well. Recruitment videos, maybe put on the home page, certainly put them in your recruitment section. So if you are recruiting, we recommend putting a recruitment section in the website with an advert for each of the jobs. And then you could put, if you've done a little video explaining the role, then you could put that in there. If you've done videos explaining, what's the best thing about working at the Yardstick Agency, what's the best thing about working at, insert the name of the firm, then you can put those on those pages as well. But really important that you put them on there. I personally will put those recruitment videos on the home page as well, because they might be seen by recruits, but they also might be seen by prospective clients as well. And prospective clients, there is a benefit to them in you being a good place to work. Because you being a good place to work, And from an ethical perspective, that will play well with clients. But for you being a good place to work reduces staff turnover, and that lower staff turnover generally equals better and more efficient service. So there is benefit to your prospects, professional connections, and existing clients knowing that you are a good place to work. And in terms of videos on website, there's a few examples there. So Henwood Court and Black Swan Financial Planning are face-to-face videos that we've shot, and you can see how we put them onto the website. And then Expert Wealth and BPI Investment are two we shot remotely, and you can see how we've added those onto the website there. So not only can you see how they're on the website, but you can see examples of the videos that we've shot. So just a couple of minutes left. What have we talked about today? The 8 types of videos you could produce, how to run a client video project, how to promote your content, and again, really important that we get this balance right between production and promotion. Produce once, promote over and over and over again. Some basic stuff about where to put them on the website, and then how to produce that video content, whether it is remotely or face-to-face, etc. 3 ways we can help client videos. So we do these in 2 ways. We do remote shoots. We do 6 videos, so a package of 6 videos for £1,494 plus VAT, and that's scalable up and down. So 3 videos is whatever that is, £700 odd. And that can scale up and down. And that gets you 6 remote videos. We can do face-to-face shoots. We do that on bespoke pricing though, because a lot depends on where we've got to go, the location, the number of days, etc., etc. So that's always bespoke pricing. But if you were doing it on one day of shooting, and you were doing 6 videos, it's generally around 2.5 times the cost of a remote shoot. We can help you promote your videos on social media through our Yardstick Engage, which is where we manage the social media accounts of advisors and planners. And of course, we can help you put them on your website as well. And then we can run your newsletters, and we can embed videos in the newsletters as well. So 3 ways we can help you record those videos and promote them. If anybody wants to know more, just drop me an email and get in touch. There's my email address, phil@theyardstickagency.co.uk. Very happy to have that conversation with you. And there's our website address, Twitter and LinkedIn as well, if you want to get in touch. So 2 minutes early. I'm very happy to answer any questions that we might have, Dan.
Right, well, none have come in thus far. So if anybody has any. All right, here we go. One from Neil. So I'm keen to try creating a few videos initially by myself with the view of most likely outsourcing this due to time constraints. To try this initially, what software would you recommend I use to edit the video and add images, etc., to personalize them?
Dan, that might be a question for you. What software does Luke use?
So internally here, we've got Adobe Premiere Pro, which is part of the Adobe Creative Suite package. And that's a monthly subscription that we pay because it has all the design tools that the team use. But for something a bit simpler, I mean, if you've got an Apple Mac, then, you know, iMovie for something really simple, to try yourself might be a nice entry point. That being said, if you're thinking of editing the video on your phone or tablet, oftentimes it will have something actually inbuilt in order to do that. So I would say look at the Adobe Premiere package, and if it looks way too complex or if the price point's wrong, look at what's actually included natively on the device you're using, because there will be an editor there.
Thank you, Dan. Hopefully that answers your question, Neil. So just to wrap up, if anybody's got any final questions, just put them in the chat. Hopefully that's been useful, a really useful tour, hopefully, of the types of videos you could do. For me, as I said before, client videos, first place to start. Abby will organise the follow-up after today. Don't forget the link. Go and sign up for the webinar we've got coming up with Neil and Brian next Tuesday. I think that's going to be a really, really useful session. Other than that, it's 11 o'clock. You can probably hear the bells. Thanks for putting up with my coughing. I will see you all next time. Cheers, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.